start by saying thank you so much for watching. I know we tell you this every time, but we are so grateful to you guys for taking the time out of your busy lives to hang out with us. Thank you.
And we are grateful. So we're going to tell you every time because we don't want you to forget how grateful we are. Because without you, we're just making videos for ourselves.
Without you, we're just two chicks in a garage.
Yeah.
And a video camera.
Surrounded by art. So, in our last video, we talked about prisoner letters and just connecting that way and sharing some of their stories. And what's really cool is that Liberty actually came over and we were getting ready to do this video. And our daughter came home with the mail. And it was like, oh, you got a letter. And it's from a prisoner. I'm not going to share their name. Although this guy did say, hey, you can use whatever's in my letter. But I just, I think it's better not to share their name unless we get, hey, please share my name, then we will. But otherwise, this guy who wrote, it's funny because my wife worked at the prison as well as me working at the prison and Liberty being a volunteer. But he wrote, oh, if I show you too much, then you're going to see the name. No, you won't. So he wrote to Clan McCarty. I thought that was pretty funny. But what was so cool is that his letter was awesome. It was awesome in the fact that he just talked like he would if we were talking when we used to talk, because Liberty knows him.
Yeah, he was in my writing class a couple winters ago, and this guy is a brilliant writer. I mean, his stuff was always just beautiful, articulate, really in-depth. He's a good writer. And you can tell just by a letter that he wrote to you.
Yeah, it's funny because a lot of times I think people think, oh, a letter from a prisoner is going to be like, hey, what's up? You know, fuck this, blah, blah, blah. No, like she said, very articulate and using the English vocabulary in a way that actually, I read a lot of stuff online and you don't see people using and delving into to use words that they're like, it's like a lost art.
Yeah.
Everything's been, oh, let's just use lingo. Let's just shorten everything. Let's do the easiest thing. And what's cool is he doesn't do that.
Yeah, and I noticed in the inmates that I write with the guy that killed my brother and with one of the inmates at the prison here. And they're typically very deep letters, like pretty profound, very like poetically beautiful.
Yes.
They write in such a different way than people in the free world.
I think part of that is because they're sharing. They're not surrounded by social media. They're not surrounded by, I mean, there's a television, but they don't have all the distractions that we have out here.
Right.
And so if they're writing a letter to someone, they're not doing a quick text. They're not doing a, what is that? Snapchat. Sorry.
We're not old at all.
They're not doing that kind of stuff. They're pouring their heart into what they're writing. Yeah. And it's so cool. I will tell you, the reason that I wrote him, part of the reason, was because I wanted to ask him if what I'd heard was true. And that was that he'd finally been able to touch a tree. He got transferred to another prison, and this prison, in the yard, there's a tree. And he says right in here that after 35 years in prison, he got to touch a tree. And it's really cool because he talks about how even though it was wintertime, he said some people would feel like, oh, it should be summer and the tree's in full bloom, or even autumn when there's, you know, it's got the gorgeous colors and everything. And he said, but just to touch the frozen bark and to see the icicles coming off the different branches and stuff, you could tell that meant so much to him. And he says he goes out and like sits by that tree and just enjoys that tree. And I'm sorry, I take trees for granted.
Well, yeah, and I'm so glad that you wrote to him because I didn't know you had. And remember, I was the one that told you about the tree because one of the prisoners that I write with at the prison here, because I told you about him touching the tree because one of the prisoners that I write with at the prison here, which is where this guy was, and then was transferred, the prisoner that I write with had gotten a letter from this guy about the tree. And so the prisoner here was telling me in his letter that this guy had touched a tree for the first time in 35 years. And it just blew my mind. And so I shared that with Aprelle. And then for you to write to him, that was awesome. I'm so glad you did.
Well, this guy he's one of those guys that he commands respect in prison. And
naturally.
Yeah. And I don't want to speak for him, but I don't know that he really like has an affinity for correctional officers. So and maybe I now take that for granted, the fact that the relationship that I've been able to have with some of these guys and talking to and stuff, I don't think of him at all like I would have before. And so I knew he would be happy to hear from me, and I expected he would write back because I know how important and actually precious letters are when you're in prison. But the way that he wrote to us in here about like he was like, I'm gonna try to put not one, not two, but 3 smiles on your face. And he even referred to my wife and, hey, I really like to see her art. And
I would like to see your woman's art.
Yeah. Just, it's so crazy to me that change that has happened from, oh, you're a prisoner, keep your personal stuff to yourself. I'll keep my personal stuff to myself too. Yeah, I touched a tree. It's amazing. And let me tell you about all, this other stuff and how are you doing? And just, I don't know, it's amazing to me.
Yeah, it's not, I don't think that it's a common thing for an ex-correctional officer and a current inmate to be writing letters that express genuine care and concern for each other.
Yeah, in fact, I'm going to be blunt. There are people that now consider my wife and I, because Dana worked at the prison for 5 years, that consider us to be traitors because we correspond with prisoners. And that mindset is way off.
And when you say that, you mean the COs that you worked with?
Some of them, yes. Not all of them.
Right. But some of the COs consider you to be traitors.
Yeah, traitors.
Because you're in contact with prisoners.
Right. Prisoners are the enemy. They're the evil that you have to deal with at work, the necessary evil that you have to deal with. But man, you would never, ever talk to them outside of work because that's crazy. Why would you waste your time? Well, to me, it's not a waste of time. They're human beings, but also I can write a letter to this guy and get a response and have communication to help him. And I don't know that this guy gets out. I think he might be in for life.
I seem to recall he's a lifer.
So what influence can I have on him or you have on him that maybe will then trickle down to the people other prisoners that he comes in contact with? That, I mean, there's all these forks in the roads of people's lives. And if you could trickle down and put another fork there where I could have become this violent, angry person. Instead, I had an outlet of someone who really cared about me as a person and went this way instead. And now they can trickle down all of that. It's just that, I'm sorry, is part of the proof of why the prison system needs to change.
Absolutely.
It's
absolutely. And going back to the tree, I mean, think about that for a minute. How many of us are psyched to touch a tree? Like, we don't even think about it.
Stupid trees are dropping leaves on my grass, or
right. And it's like, I went for a hike yesterday and touched 1,000,000 trees and never. I mean, it's nature. It's amazing, and I was like putting my hand on them, and but to not be able to touch a tree.
35 years.
35 years. I mean, that's most of my life. To never have touched a tree. I mean, it's something so simple that we take for granted. I mean, we could get up right now and go touch a tree. And what's the big deal, right? But to have that taken away from you. And
maybe we should. I'm just kidding.
You guys want to go outside? It's really cold.
It's freezing outside, actually.
We got more snow. Hello, April.
April snow.
April the month, not April.
Yeah, not me. Not me.
Oh, jeez.
So, what's funny is I also got a letter from another guy.
Mm-hmm.
And in the letter, he was talking about how he's going to get out. Well, he's looking to get out in 2030.
Mm.
He's already in his 40s, late 40s, I believe. And he was just talking about he's been in for years and years and years.
Yeah.
And he's like, when I get out, what do I have to offer?
Yeah,
I don't
do.
I don't know cell phones. I don't know the new computer stuff. I don't know. He remembers the dial up, whatever, if that. And it made me think, wow, this is why we need a reentry university where these guys who are getting out, not just for the guys who have done a little bit of time and to try and get them off the road that they're on to keep going back inside a prison, but for these guys that get out and feel like, where are my skills gonna take me?
Mm-hmm.
What kind of job am I gonna get?
Well, and depending on how long they've been in, our world is changing so quickly. Technology changes so quickly.
Yep.
That, I mean, even for someone in the free world, if we don't keep up, we're left behind within 24 hours.
By the time you buy the brand new latest computer, there's already being manufactured and it's not obsolete, but there's already something bigger and better in the works.
Right. And so if you're removed from that for X amount of years, decades, and then you're just released. Like, they open the gates and they're like, here you go.
Yeah.
Good luck. What do you do? I mean, how do you learn these things? You have no resources, you have limited skills. And yes, you can go take a community, like, continuing education class at the local college and learn how to use a cell phone. But if you don't know that those resources exist, how are you supposed to survive? And of course, you're going to go back to the family that you left, the people that you left, because that is your safety net. Who else's couch are you supposed to crash on, except for the people that you knew in the past? I mean, you're literally starting fresh with zero resources.
And sometimes with the same fertilizer that helped get you into prison.
Mm-hmm.
If you're talking starting fresh, and I was just thinking a flower or, whatever. If you have to go back to what you know because there's nothing else to go back to, especially if those influences were not good influences.
Right.
How are you? Yeah, you can say, well, it's up to the person, but okay, you were talking about going to college.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to take money. Hey. We have a little timer, or else we will just go on and on and on.
How does it?
You know how we were talking about technology? Well, Liberty's still figuring out her phone.
Speaking of getting left behind when it comes to technology. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Okay, we have 5 more minutes.
All right, 5 minutes. Cool.
Wow.
So in those 5 minutes, let's talk about what we want to do, because the goal is to create a re-entry university. And we're not talking some prestigious college thing. That's something for people that get out of prison to, we're thinking college type dorms, because these guys, they're so used to sharing a cell with someone that I've actually had them come and say, man, the last time I got out, I had to make sure my door was shut. I had to make sure that, like, I slept on the floor because they're used to, I'm sorry, but the beds are horrible. They're metal bunks and stuff. I slept on the floor when I got home. I needed someone else in the room. There's a time that it takes to, like, decompress from that stuff. So that's why we're thinking dorm style rooms. They come into, yes, they have their own space, but it's not a boom, here you are, here's an apartment, take care of everything yourself.
Right.
So that, and a very, very structured routine, because in prison everything is structured, and yet there's so much downtime of boringness, and that is, we do not want boringness. We want there to always be something to do. So, like, business classes, learning how to be a barista. Is there a different word for barista if you're a guy? Baristo? No? Okay. I don't know.
Broista.
Broista.
Some coffee shops have started using that.
Yeah.
And
I'm a broista, not a bro.
It's a little hipster.
But, so, have coffee shop, have a tattoo parlor, have
a mechanic shop.
Yes, a mechanic shop, a woodworking shop. These things where they can go and boom, right away, they've got a job. So they're earning money. The first month, they get to live there for free, because they usually don't come out of there with much money.
Right.
I mean, case by case, but then they're expected to help out with paying rent and stuff, you know, things like that. But they go to work, and then, like, the whole kind of community would shut down at, say, I would say 3 o'clock or something. This is just kind of what the ideas are. Shut down at like 3 o'clock, and then from 3 o'clock till 5 or 6, it's classes. Business classes, mindset classes, any class we can get in there just about. So they're not only learning a skill or trade during the day, they're then moving forward with just other knowledge, like how to create a business, how to run a business, so that stuff is something they can take when they leave the university.
It's a pretty profound concept, this re-entry community, college, whatever you want to call it, that is shaping in your brain. And I'm so intrigued by it. But we will have to go into all the details in the next video.
Woohoo!
So stay tuned, and we will be back.
Guess we will. Don't forget, like, subscribe, hit that bell, and you'll get notifications whenever we do another cool video. So, thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. See you next time.